Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're going to be looking at the S19J Pro 100 terahash. We're going to compare it to the S17 Plus 73 terahash, going over various differences, pluses and minuses of each board, and all the details associated with that. So if you think that's interesting, hit like, subscribe, hit the bell, go to cryptollc.org. If you're looking to set up a ASIC or GPU mining farm, we do that for our clients all over the world. Set you up a ASIC or GPU farm, or if you're looking to buy yourself some ASICs or GPUs, go to cryptollc.org. We sell GPUs, 3080s, 3090s, 3070s, also ASICs, S19s. This is S19J Pro, so we have these for sale as well. We also have the XPs, S17s, the Pro version, the regular version of the 19, What's Miner, and so on. So check out cryptollc.org. And before we start, crypto saves your wealth and Jesus Christ saves your soul. All right, so today's video, we're going to be going over the differences. So first thing you can see right away, as soon as I show you the difference, these two boards, the first big difference is the heat sinks. You can see these heat sinks here. They're all on individual chip. So there's 65 chips here. This is chip number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on, all the way down here to 65. So you can imagine you have 65 chips. Each one has a heat sink. All these heat sinks are, you can see the difference distance between the heat sink and the board. It's like a tiny little space there because the chip is sticking out of the board, and then the heat sink is soldered onto the chip. It's actual solder. It's not thermal paste. It's not being screwed on or held down somehow. It is soldered on, which is a very bad design flaw of the S17 Plus. Because of that, what happens over time is the solder gets a little loose. They don't use the correct solder on these S17 Plus series. And after some time, some of the boards start to disconnect from the chip. That causes the chip to become not findable, because the signals are traveling through all these chips. There's 5, I think there's 5 signals going through each chip. And all 5 have to go from 1 down to 65. If any of these chips are having a problem, let's say this chip right here, one of the signals is bad, that will cause the whole hash board to stop working. The hash board needs to be repaired because all the signals need to come through. That's a huge problem with the heat sinks right off of there, right off the bat. As for the S19J Pro series, you can see that there are not a bunch of soldered on chips. There's actually 2 heat sinks, and these heat sinks are not soldered on. You can see some of the paste right there. It's coming out of the heat sink. You can see it right there, right in front of my fingernail. That, also down here, you can see some coming out. That's actual paste. So it's not soldered on. There's no solder. That's why they have screws here rather than no screws on this one. A lot of screws. That is a very big improvement against the S17 Plus, because now you don't have that soldering problem. You just have these 2 heat sinks come on and they cool off basically half the chips. It has 126 chips versus the S17 Plus has 75 chips. Or no, 65 chips. It has 65 chips. 65 versus 126 has more chips. These chips are run at 525 hertz, or the speed of it, because megahertz, and that keeps the chips nice and cool. These 2 heat sinks do a good job. I see that on the actual mining portal for each miner, so I can see that the speed and the heat is good. All the chips work great. They don't produce they don't produce too much heat. There isn't like some areas that's warming up too much. It has even displacement of heat, so that's good. Give you some more shots here. Right, so huge improvement. Now we're not going to be having that soldering problem anymore. So that soldering problem is now gone. That's for the front. Now let's take a look on the back. Again, still talking about the heat sinks. So let's flip it over. On the back, we have another 3 pieces of heat sink. Again, they are all on paste. You can see that paste right there. They are all on paste. So I got 1, 2, 3, all on paste. Again, same thing. It looks like being held down by more screws from the other side. So it looks great. Now let's flip over this guy. S17 Plus. Once you flip them over, you see we still have that same design. Even on this side, you still have the same heat sinks soldered on. So again, they are putting solder onto these heat sinks for all 65 chips. So if you had a problem with chip number 65, let's say over here, you have to take off this heat sink, the front one and the back one, to then remove the chip if you want to replace the chip. Or if you want to get under here and take a look at those transistors and the resistors and all that other stuff, little chips, there might be a thermometer chip that went bad, you need to fix that or whatever it is, power distribution chip. So you need to take stuff apart. It's a lot more work if you were going to be fixing it or sending it for repairs or fixing it yourself. Look at the S19J Pro. A lot cleaner. Again, just 3 heat sinks. Way better. You unscrew it, then you see everything, and you fix what you need to fix. So that's one heat sink. Big difference. S19J Pro, a lot better condition, a lot better engineering than the S17 Plus. Then the other difference is the motherboard. You can see that on the S17 we have all of these chips, right? These are voltage, I think these are voltage regulators, or little chips right there. They send some voltage, they change it up, and they send it off to each column here. You can see you got 65 chips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, and so on. So if one of these chips goes bad, then this row will have a problem. This chip goes bad, then this row will have a problem, and so on. So that's how this one works. The back of the board. Let me show you over here. Look at all of those chips, right? All those resistors, transistors, little chips, little voltage regulators, or you know, they bring it up or they bring it down. Just a lot of stuff going on. That's just the back. You go to the front. Same thing on the front. You have, if you look between the heat sinks, look at all those little tiny resistors, transistors. Over here as well. See those little tiny guys? You can see those 5 data signals. See those little pins, little copper looking holes right there? Those copper looking holes are the signals for each chip. So you can see they're traveling through the board. You can see the tracers right there traveling through the board for each chip. So a lot of stuff going on, a lot of little chips. Going over here, you have your capacitors. Then you have your PIC processor. More chips, all that stuff. A lot of things are going on right here. ASIC boost, all that stuff. Power connectors, so just a lot of stuff going on. Let's go to S19J. And look at the difference here. We have, you see that's similar, right? Similar chip, couple of capacitors, power, plus minus, data cable, some resistors, a couple of more chips. That's pretty much it. To get to the rest of them, you have to take off these heat sinks. But you can see that it's way more cleaner. A lot cleaner. Then when I flip it over, look what they did to the motherboard. It is now metal. It's the first time I'm seeing this. I've never seen a motherboard built like this. Anything from Bitmain actually. But you basically have the motherboard, you're supposed to be green like this from this side. And then on the opposite side, you have actual piece of metal. So it's the first time I'm seeing something like this, but it looks like they built it into the metal frame. Looks like the motherboard's inside of it, or how, I don't know how they did that. But it looks really nice, and you have 0 chips. Look how clean this is. You just have your heat sinks cooling off the chips from the opposite side of the board. Additional cooling, right? Cooling off those chips. But you have zero capacitors, resistors. You have zero, basically any other chip. It's absolutely just blank. It's a blank sheet. Look how great that looks. Again, compare it to the S17 Plus. Look at that mess. This is the back, same back. It's the back of the board. This is the back of the board. Look at the difference there. Huge difference. So, covered two things here so far. Heat sinks, huge upgrade for the S19 from the S17 Plus, S19J, not the Pro. The Pro still has some chips on the back, but the J Pro does not. Look how great the J Pro looks. Looks way better than the regular Pro. Look how much worse this S17 looks, right? So we got the heat sinks, we talked about the chips. Now let's talk about actual practicality, how they actually perform in real world usage, right? Durability, and so on. So we've been running S19 Pros, not the J Pro, and the J Pro looks like an upgrade for the Pro. It looks way better than the Pro actually. So the J Pro is an upgrade to the regular Pro, but we ran the Pro. So the Pro ran for over a year at one of our mining farms. We never had any problems. Basically, for a whole year out of 400 miners that we have, the S19 Pro, 110 terahash, about four boards. So you got 400 miners times 3, right? That's 1,200 hash boards. Out of 1,200 hash boards, only about 4 broke in a year. So that's how great the durability is. Of course, we take care of our mining facilities. We use great filter. We make sure that the boards don't overheat. We make sure there's no humidity. So we do a good job taking care of it. But still, talking about durability of a hash board, mining nonstop 24/7 for a whole year, and out of 1,200 hash boards, only 4 broke. So that's great, durability wise, right? Then of course, this is more efficient. S19J Pro runs at 29.5 watts a terahash. This one runs at 39.5 watts a terahash. So big difference. So this one does about 3,000 watts for 75 terahashes. This one does 3,100 watts for 100 terahashes. So 25 terahashes more, uses 100 watts more. 100 watts less, but produces 25 terahashes less. So it's a big difference. It's a huge upgrade to go to the S19. Now let's talk about the S17 Pro, talking about its durability. So durability for these guys, we ran about 550 of these miners. So it's going to be 3 hash boards as well. So 3 hash boards times, let's say 500 is going to be 1,500 hash boards. Out of those hash boards, how many broke? I would say that maybe about 5 hash boards break a month. About 5. So, you know, average, you're losing about a miner a month. So every single month, 3 hash boards are dead, 3 hash boards are dead. And you have to send them off to repair, send them off to repair, send them off to repair, and so on. Non-stop sending them off to repair. It's a huge waste of time. And at first, Bitcoin was replacing them, well, not replacing, repairing them. Send them back, but a lot of times when they send them back, they're still broken. I send them out again, and they send back repaired ones, you know, like quotation repaired ones. They send those back, and they're still broken. So sometimes I even sent the same board for repair like 3 times, and finally they sent back working boards. That's because Bitmain does a lousy job repairing S17 Plus boards. And after a while, they actually said that we're not going to be repairing these boards anymore. We sent them off to some repair facilities. They repaired some, but then they also said we're not going to repair them anymore. So basically, everyone came to the conclusion that the S17 Plus is such a bad miner that no one wants to repair them anymore. And people just want to get rid of them. It doesn't mean that all your hash boards will break. It just, the defect rate is pretty high. Like I said, you got 4 hash boards of the S19J Pro. I mean, the regular Pro, broke in a year. And I'm talking about losing, you know, 5 hash boards a month. right? And he got 12 months. So I'm going to lose like 60 hash boards a year versus 4. So 60 hash boards lost, 4 hash boards lost. Big difference. But again, if you get a good price, like what would I recommend for people to do? If you got like a really cheap price on the S17s and you get like a 3-month warranty or something like that, you know, it's probably worth it if you got a good price, because it doesn't mean it's going to break. You can plug them in, they'll run for a year and they might not break, right? So if you get them at scale and you get a good price, it's probably still worth it. But long term, these things will just break and break and break and break until they just don't work anymore. This one's solid. So that's pretty much the comparison here between the S19J Pro versus the S17 Plus. Future video, we're going to be doing a comparison with the S19J Pro versus the S19 Pro. So if you think that's interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You'll be posting that video sometime in the near future. That's going to be it for this one. Hope you guys like it. Make sure you guys subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, share with grandma. And that's going to be it for this one. Until next time. Bye.